one of the underlying premises of meditation is that as wonderful as your mind is, it's fundamentally flawed in a few very specific ways. One of the ways that I have noticed and is pointed out in various psychological studies and things is that human beings tend to have a very inaccurate picture of themselves. Many of us tend to have this bias that we think a little bit too highly of ourselves, and I always like there's a statistic that I'm going to get slightly wrong, but it's something in the order of the fact that 70% of people believe they are above average drivers. And obviously that can't be correct. Jerry Seinfeld has a funny comedy routine, where he talks about how growing up as a boy, and he'd look at these superheroes like Batman or Superman or whatever, and these weren't so much fantasies or stories. These were career options. It's like we grow up, and certainly I think as certainly men, and I suspect women, we sort of have some sense that we are very special. I think books like the Harry Potter books, where there's this kid who's just awfully ordinary, but then he's discovered. And we're all sort of fantasizing that that's us. We're just waiting. We're waiting for people to come and knock on the door and say we're special. Now, some people have the opposite. They think far too little of themselves as well. But regardless, one of the things that's going on is we're not very accurate in seeing how we see ourselves. And certainly when it comes to this love thing, I know I have been massively deluded, I think, most of my life about my capacity for love. Or maybe not my capacity, but how loving I am. And that is that I think I had this sort of underlying sense of this capacity for love, which everybody has, not special. And, it's not really taught in school. It's sort of left to, I think it's left to the religion, so you have to sort of go to church and they'll talk about love, and they'll sort of, I think in the Judeo-Christian tradition, love thy neighbor is one of the most important commandments. And so there's love thy neighbor, and the religious figures will talk a lot about that. What does it mean? And there are stories like the Good Samaritan in the New Testament, which tell us a little bit about what this love thing means. And there are terms put out like unconditional love. And a little bit like Jerry Seinfeld and his superheroes, whenever I would sort of see these descriptions of love as unconditional, or I would read books like Scott Peck in The Road Less Traveled, the whole first section is about love. Eric Fromm wrote this fantastic book on the philosophy of love called The Art of Loving. And I'd read these books, or I'd go to church and I'd hear the stories, and I'd go, yeah, that's me. Yeah. Nothing to work on, nothing to think about. Yeah, that's me. And I think what I was doing was I was confusing this sense that I have the capacity for love for actually what they're talking about. And the thing is that it's not that I wasn't loving, it's just that I would dole it out as and well. I've got this huge capacity, or at least I have this sense that I have this huge capacity, and I would dole it out when I felt people deserved it. So somebody's nice to me, I'll be loving. Somebody's not so loving, or somebody's not so nice, and I'm not so loving. A little bit more judgmental, a little bit superior in so going, oh, well, I'm better than they are. Love is the absence of judgment, or at least that's one definition. So I think, I would dole it out sometimes, not so much other times. I would hold it in short supply in case it ran out. I had this fantastic capacity. This is, the most loving person. But I would only give it out when it was deserved, despite reading these things about this concept of unconditional love or whatever. And then you discover in meditation this concept that love is an innate skill that we all have, and that we have this fantastic capacity for it. All of us have this incredibly powerful capacity for love. But that we're probably not practicing it very much. We just dole it out a bit here, there. Somebody does something nice, love them a bit. Maybe somebody does something bad and you give them the benefit of the judgment, you give them the benefit of the doubt, and you sort of think, oh, look, I'm very loving, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they're not quite as much of a complete idiot as I was thinking they were, but not really loving. And meditation says you have an infinite capacity, but are you practicing it? Are you developing it? Are you nurturing it? Are you cultivating it? Are you getting better at this skill? And in my case, the answer is probably no. And so I think while in the religious traditions there's a lot of talk about it, and there are some examples of what it looks like, there aren't a whole lot of exercises that you can do to actually develop this or work on it or improve it, other than some sort of idea of like you just intend to be slightly nicer or something like that. But in meditation, we're learning that we have this tool for unlocking our capacity, for being able to fulfill a little bit more of this potential that we all have to be loving. And that's perhaps what's going on. And I know most people just want to feel a bit better. They're like, I just want to feel better. Can we meditate so that I just feel a bit better? And I'm like, yes. Well, the good news is, even with this whole loving kindness thing, you will feel better. But there's more going on than just feeling better. We're potentially unlocking this capacity for love, if you want to. There's a guitarist, I'm told, who got a little bit fed up, a fantastic sort of world famous award-winning guitarist who got fed up with people always telling him how amazing he was. And they were like, oh, the way you play it's so beautiful. I would do anything. I would just wish that I could play like you. And he got a bit fed up with this. So he just started being a bit obstreperous, really. People would say, oh, I wish I could play guitar like you. And he would just look them in the eye and go, no, you don't. They go, no, I do. I wish I could play guitar like you. It's so amazing. You create this beauty. And he would look at them again and just reaffirm, no, you don't. You don't want to play guitar like me. No, I do. No, you don't. And his point was that people say they want to play guitar like him. But if they really wanted to play guitar like him, they probably could. They just need to practice 4 or 5 hours a day for several years. But they say they want to, and they can. They're just not putting in the work. So I love this idea. I love this idea that Justin is a loving person. This fiction I have in my mind that I am some kind of saint. That I have this, underneath it all, I am loving. And surely people recognize that, even though I don't really practice it at all. And I'm confusing capacity with practice. So the question is, do I want to become loving? I mean, I think I do. But do I? Because I haven't done as much practice. Like, there are people who really, really work at this. So like I say, if you want to really start to live up to your potential as a really powerful, loving person, you can. This is the tool to do that, if you want to. And it's work. But it's pretty nice work. It's mostly work that makes you feel better. And in this, we're mostly working on ourselves. So I know there's this sort of philosophy, we should be loving others. And that's great. And I'm all in favor. And I think that's fantastic. And it's worthwhile and everything else. But within this tradition, within the meditation world, you have to start by loving yourself. If you cannot receive love, you're not really qualified to give it, or not give it as much as you might. So a lot of the emphasis at the beginning in love training and loving kindness training is on yourself. It's on that ability to receive love, to find where you have built barriers against it within yourself, and then to undo them or to relax them or soften them, and start to allow yourself to love yourself a little more. And that's easily said. It's harder to do, but this is the practice.